everyone, it's been a minute since I've made a Notion video. I had a lot of life changes that happened within the last couple of months, so I had to take a step back from recording, but I am back and I cannot wait to share some personal highlights that are in my life right now. In this agenda, I'm gonna go through my July and August reflections, walk you through my September Notion reset, talk about some exciting life happenings, go over some travel plans I have planned within the next couple of months, and I'm going to talk about my new autumn template that I cannot wait to share in early September. I'm also going to plug in the books I've been reading and give you a reflection on my recent reads. I should also mention that I am using a brand new microphone for this video, so we're also going to be testing out how this microphone works, and hopefully I could continue using it in the future. Okay, so there were a couple of things I totally forgot to mention in my recording, so you are going to see some incoming stitches sliding in. My summer Notion template is completely free and it is linked in the description, so feel free to go ahead and download that and follow along as I'm going through my template journey. Alright, let's go ahead and get started. In my last video, we went over all of my July goals, which was quite a lot. I think I had about 18 goals, and out of the 18, I actually only completed 10 of them. Most of them are reading goals, and I kind of feel like I should lump them all up into one overarching goal, but I really like to keep track of everything I do from a meticulous standpoint, so I'm still trying to figure out what's the best way to tackle this one. I'm not going to go over every single one of my goals, but I am going to touch on the top 3 for each month that were important to me. The first goal I want to discuss for the month of July is recording my summer template Notion tour. This one was quite of a big accomplishment for me because it was a much longer form of reporting content and it involved so much talking and a pretty planned out walkthrough, and I was pretty nervous about this specific release because it was my first time sharing a work that was going to go out to the public, which actually leads me to my next goal, designing a yearly Notion template. I am currently designing a complete yearly goal setup planner for 2025, and I actually intend to use this for the whole year, and I cannot wait to share it with you guys because I've put in a lot of effort to build this template from scratch, and it's something that I've been working on the last several months. I've designed a pretty good framework that I think will be useful from like an organizational perspective, so I'm very excited to really share this with you guys because I think it will help increase your productivity and ultimately keep track of all of your work. I'm using the next few months to really test out my template, so just stay tuned because I plan to release this in mid-December. And the last goal I want to touch on for the month of July is studying Hangul. So in my July video, I spent a very good minute talking about how I want to get back into speaking my mother's native language, but I came to a realization that it is just not a priority right now, and it's just something that I just cannot focus on. I've actually moved it in multiple different months several times, and I've just accepted the fact that it is not a goal that I am just prioritizing. I also think the reason why I'm unable to prioritize this right now is I do understand Korean and I can read the characters, so I'm not too concerned about getting lost or anything like that when I'm in Korean the next couple of months. So I decided it's best to pause on this goal for now and just focus on other things that are a little bit more dire to me. I had a pretty big shift in priorities this month, so I'll go over the goals that I was focused on. So the first goal I prioritized is create a design portfolio in my website. I've had my website domain for about 5 years, and I literally had it under construction for that long. I was practically throwing away my annual membership every month, and it's actually not that wallet friendly. So I really felt like I need to kickstart this journey and really get these design portfolios in as soon as possible. I actually connected with a friend that works in SaaS HR, and she's the one that actually asked me for a portfolio. So that inspired me to really kickstart my website again and have these portfolios going. At the same time, I had my website under construction for way too long, and I'm really proud of how I put it together. So it definitely needed to get that going back up as soon as possible. My second goal is somewhat related to my first goal, goal, which is redesigning my resumes. I think this was an ongoing goal for me, but I actually had no idea that I was working on CVs versus resumes, and it actually wasn't a realization for me until someone actually showed me that my resume was more of a CV style. In that case, I wanted to work on making sure I actually separate those two from a CV to a resume. I felt accomplished that I now have a pretty fleshed out CV, and at the same time, I also have a resume that highlights my experiences and are easily customizable for any of the applications I submit. And lastly, all of the resume designs gave me a huge inspiration to stand up an Etsy store of my resume templates. Before I decided to stand up an Etsy store, I used to give some resume guidance to working professionals and university students, and I feel pretty confident in my abilities to provide any type of guidance in a professional environment. I've reviewed my templates with other working professionals and tested out several different editing tools and abilities, and I feel pretty good about the templates I've designed from scratch over the last several years. I have a few different designs I've used in the past that has worked for me. I'm super excited to share it out there for those who are looking for a resume template. I linked my Etsy store in the description, so you're more than welcome to check it out. I do want to mention that I am charging for my resume templates because they have been professionally reviewed, and I also do provide resources on how to write a cover letter and an application. If you're interested in buying the resume but it's a little bit out of your budget, just reach out to me directly and I'm more than happy to work something out with you. Okay, let's actually compare how I did in the habits category. I'm a little nervous about this one because it's been a minute since I've looked at it. Okay, let's see how I did for the month of July and August compared to June. One new habit that I included this month is my skincare routine. I was just not prioritizing my skincare as much as I should be, so I felt like this would be a really good way for me to keep better track of that. And I think what I had previously was something else. I think it was like taking my vitamins or something. I can't remember. But anyway, this month I'm actually really making sure that I prioritize my skincare. What else? If I were to look at how I did for both of the month compared to June, specifically around my fitness, you can see that I did improve just a little bit for the month. I'm still not working out as much as I should, and I do know why that's happening. I'm not spending as much time at my apartment right now, so that's actually where my gym is, and that's probably the main reason why I'm starting to fall off from working out as much. But hopefully for the remainder of the week, I do prioritize this a little bit more. For this month, I think reading is pretty much on track compared to the other 2 months, and for content creation, I didn't record as much as I did this month, but I did record a lot last month, and that did involve a lot of editing as well. So July just naturally looks a lot better than June or August. For water, this one's really weird because it says I missed tracking a day of drinking water. So that is a little alarming. I don't know if I just didn't drink water for a day, but I'm pretty sure I just didn't track this one. So yeah, that one's really weird, but I'm hoping that if I were to check off all the dates for this month, or rather this week, for water, it should definitely say 100%. We'll see what it looks like next month. Okay, so for studying, as you can see, it has dropped significantly. So I'm actually gonna switch this one out into another habit next month. I'm not quite sure what I'm gonna call it yet. I'm probably gonna switch out to design since one of my goals is around design. So that will be a really good way for me to track that a little better. And skincare. And since the skincare one used to be taking my vitamins, there is going to be a little offset in the numbers. So yeah, we're just going to have to ignore these two and just focus on the first one up here. We're just going to focus on August. I think I could be doing better with my skincare, so hopefully I could ramp that up for the month of September. Journaling is going to look a little better for August because I actually improved my journal template. I think I mentioned that I have my own journal template that I've been working on, that I actually document all of my journaling. I haven't decided if I'm going to release that yet. I'd love to release it sometime soon. I just feel like I still need to do a little bit more testing before I actually release that one out to the public. And then the last one's going to be Notion. I did not do a lot of Notioning this month, but I did spend a little bit more time doing that in July compared to June. So overall, I think my habits are doing much better in the month of August compared to July and June, which in turn my habit tracker is certainly working. I forgot to go over the walkthrough of my healthy habits corner, so let's go ahead and go in there and see how that's going. I actually use this every single day to keep track of all the foods that I eat, and that way I can see what am I eating more of and less of, or what else do I need to adjust in my diet. I was really happy that this was really helpful for some of you guys because I was really hesitant about even keeping this in the template in the first place, just because it wasn't really relevant or I wasn't too sure if it was going to be really helpful for anyone. But I'm super happy to hear that this was actually being utilized by some of you guys to keep track of your diet. So I'm really glad that I ended up not cutting this out of the template because I really like it and I use it every day, and it's just a really good way to just kind of see where I'm lacking when it comes to what I'm putting in my actual diet as well. If we look at my habits analytics, which I don't have June for some reason. I'm not too sure why I don't have June. So let's just compare July and August instead. I'm happy to see that my veggie intake still remains the same, so that's a really good sign. But I seem to lack in the fruit area, which really bothers me because I used to love eating fruit all the time, and I just don't know why it's so hard for me to have fruit when I'm just by myself. Maybe it's because my mom used to cut fruit for me all the time and I'm no longer living anywhere near my mom, so yeah, I'm probably just not eating as much fruit as I want to. I eat a lot of grapes, but grapes has a ton of sugar, which is kind of a problem. Other areas remain the same, like dairy really kicked up this time, which I'm not too surprised about. I was eating a lot of cheese and consuming a lot of yogurt just to help balance my protein intake mostly. If you look at my seafood and protein area, I was not having as much seafood this time, but my protein intake was a little higher. Coffee is always going to remain the same. You guys would be surprised how much coffee I was intaking every single day. I used to drink like 5 cups of coffee, and now I narrowed it down to 1, which is a pretty big improvement. I'm not too sure how that happened, but I only drink coffee once during the day, which is right when I wake up, and I typically don't have caffeine right after that. My sweets intake did go up a little bit, which is a little bit alarming. We'll have to kind of keep that one down and manage that one a little bit for September. And then my snacking category actually went down, which I think is a good sign just because I really enjoy snacking, and snacking just is a part of my diet. It's just something that I really enjoy doing when I'm sitting on the couch, or if I'm sitting on my desk and it's a really long day and I'm kind of craving something and it's just really easy to pop something in. So yeah, I'm gonna continue keeping this page in the autumn template, but there are gonna be some changes to it, so yeah, keep a lookout for the new changes. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything else I missed, but I don't think so. I thought a good way to create a September setup is doing it live during this video. I don't want to move any goals from the previous month to this month, so we're actually going to go ahead and start fresh with a brand new setup. On my homepage, you're going to see all my August goals because it is still August and I plan to release this video towards the end of the week. So we can just go ahead and head into the months and select September. Now to create the goal, you're just going to hit new. One of the first goals that comes to mind is finalizing my travel itineraries for Korea and Japan. So let's go ahead and title this my travel itineraries for Korea and Japan. I think I spelled itineraries wrong, so we're gonna fix that. And for the due date, make sure you select the first date and the last date of the month. I want to add a really pretty cover, so let's go ahead and change the cover. And I'm just gonna type in Korean, see what comes up. I think I like this one. This one's really nice. These really pretty lanterns here. So let's see what that looks like when I pop out. Oh, I really like that. So since we selected or created this goal within the month category, it's automatically just going to be able to populate in the months going forward. So if I were to click out and go back in, it's under the month goal section. Quick tip on how to set actionable tasks. I highly suggest that you begin any type of your tasks using action verbs. So what are action verbs? Action verbs are very crucial in any type of communication because they do help specify and highlight the action taking place, making the message way more engaging and precise. That way, when you're actually writing these down, it gives you a signal that there is some type of action you need to take in order to complete this task. So an action task would look something like, look into my flight details for Korea, Japan. But if you want to make it a little bit more precise, you see how I actually lumped both of my flight details for Korea and Japan? You can actually separate both of these out. I actually recommend that you do the other way around I just suggested. The way I just did it right now, I'm just trying to brain dump as quickly as possible, but it's actually better if you separate both Korea and Japan. That way you can say you did both of these, and you can also write down all the details inside of the tasks itself as well. To make it a little bit more actionable, I'm gonna separate the flight details for both Korea and Japan and just say something like, look into my flight details for Korea, and look, actually I'm gonna use a different action verb. I'm gonna say start research my flights for Japan. That way there's not a lot of correlation between the two, and you can really keep them separate, and it's a little easier when it comes for tracking, I would say. I'm just gonna remove this one, and I'm gonna continue just brain dumping a whole bunch of tasks. We wrote down all of our action tasks. I would say this is a pretty high priority for me to finalize my travel plan, so I'm not too worried that I won't be able to complete this goal because my journey does start very, very soon. Another goal that I'm thinking of is continue working on my designs for my Etsy store. Okay, I actually don't think I disclosed that I actually have a secondary Etsy store. I'm actually not going to reveal it just yet because I did put a pause on it for some time, but I think it might be a good time to actually start looking into focusing on it again and getting back into my creativity side. And for this goal, we're going to call it continue working on designs for my second Etsy store. And again, with the due date, we're just gonna select the first and the last of the month. And we're gonna go ahead and dump those tasks again, but we'll just go ahead and do it later time. I'm not gonna actually do it in this video right now. Oh, and I forgot to actually select an image. So this one, I'm gonna say business creative and see what comes up. Okay, I kind of like this one. I'm not too sure what this is, but oh, okay, it's a laptop. I like that one. It looks really nice already. Another goal I want to work on is releasing 3 videos for September. I actually have so much recorded content from day events to weekend trips, and I just hadn't gotten to the time to actually sit down and spend some time editing it. I'm not sure which video takes the longest to edit. It's either my silent travel videos or my Notion content, but regardless, I'm going to make sure I push out at least 3 videos this month. Let's call this one work on editing. Actually, I'm gonna call it work on releasing 3 videos for YouTube. And same thing. We're gonna select the dates from the first of the month to the last of the month. Great, I have these 3. And my last goal I'm gonna document is redesigning my bedroom walls using these pegboards from IKEA. Actually, I don't even know where they are. Okay, so here are the pegboards that I got from IKEA that I plan to hang up on my wall to help uniform my wall a little better. So right now, what I have to help hold up is just this flimsy little holder, and it is not well secured at all. Like, you can totally tell there's like space happening just between the nails and this board. This is definitely not suitable, and I really have to update this as soon as possible, because when I hang it up like this against this wall here, so we're gonna go ahead and give it a try. These have been sitting here for some time, and yeah, I really have to get to these as soon as possible because this wall is incredibly unacceptable. The remainder of my goals are going to be my reading goals and my Notion template design, so I'm actually going to document this later. Life updates. I kind of revealed one of my major updates, so I'm not really sure what to talk about. I mentioned in my intro video earlier that I am working on that yearly template and I'm super excited about that. I'm still trying to figure out if I want to stick with the quarterly format or if it should be more monthly. So that one I'm going to continue testing out. I'm still not sure which format's going to be better, but ultimately my goal is to figure out a way to streamline all of these in a more cohesive template. And I think a lot of trial and error is the only way I'm going to be able to figure out in the next couple of months. So I did a couple of traveling in the month of July, mostly around the US and a little bit more locally. And I actually am in the midst of finalizing my itineraries for Korea and Japan, which I'm super excited about. But I'm also including into that itinerary Vietnam as well. So I'm actually gonna be gone for a total of 5 weeks in Asia. I went to Korea and Japan last year for a month and I actually didn't do any planning whatsoever because I wanted to take the opportunity to go in blind and really immerse myself in my Korean roots. And it was probably one of the best things I think I did because I actually explored so many areas that I didn't even know existed in Korea, and it was just a really good way for me to really navigate my way because to me Korea still is a pretty foreign country even though I am Korean, but at the same time I really want to have that experience of just kind of discovering all the unknowns that I was never aware of. I definitely treated it the same way for Japan, but I kind of wish I did plan that one a little bit more meticulously because Japanese is not a primary language for me. That one is probably more like my third language that I am somewhat familiar with, but I don't use it continuously or daily like I do when I speak to my parents. So this time I definitely want to be a little bit more prepared so that way I don't struggle like I did when I was in Osaka and Kyoto last year. This time I'm gonna plan my trip meticulously because I felt like I missed out on a lot of opportunities last year and a lot of things I didn't see. So I definitely want to make sure I have a much better experience this time for both Korea and Japan. So last year I took my mom to Osaka and Kyoto as a birthday present, and this year I'm surprising her to Vietnam at a very beautiful resort for a few days. That way we can have mother-daughter time there, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very excited to go to Vietnam for the first time because I've never been there, and I'm excited to take my mother as well. She doesn't get a lot of opportunities to travel outside the US or outside of Korea, so I think this will be a really good way for us to bond better. Definitely throw out some recommendations in the comments section. I am still working on my itineraries, so I'll be very thankful and grateful if you were to provide me anything that you feel like should be something I should see while I'm on my trip or anything that I should try. That way I really get that full immersed experience when I'm there. In my July reset video, I did mention about an app called Libby, and just for quick transparency, there is no endorsement to recommend this app whatsoever. However, I use the app almost daily to listen to audiobooks, and I think it is one of the best apps out there to really help you get back into reading. I actually don't have an e-reader or a Kindle, so I mainly use my phone to listen to all my audiobooks, and I'm literally at the point where I am able to listen to audiobooks at 1.65 times the speed, which is pretty fast. The last 2 months I've been really into Asian American authors with an accidental find of one romance author. So I want to break down the books I've read, or listened to rather, but I'm not going to give you my reflections on all 12 of the books, but just my top 5 that were very memorable or that I was really looking forward to reading. The first book I'm going to cover is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I actually read Little Fireflies Everywhere and Our Missing Hearts, but this book is about a family of an Asian man and a white woman and their children, and just their overall journey in identifying who they are as human beings. The author did a really good job with subtly storytelling and being able to really build tension around each of the characters. And I would have to say, as an Asian American woman who have dealt with identity challenges, I think the author did a really good job with the approach of depicting these type of worries and being able to actually put them in both the female characters and the people of color in the book. The book really went into the burdens of high expectations that we have of ourselves, and I've definitely been in that position before where I felt like I had a lot of pressure on myself to be the best that I can be, and I think this is just a a part of us that we naturally always are going through. I think she did a really good job really being able to capture all of this in this book. Out of the 3 books that she's written, this one was my personal favorite, so I give this book a 4 out of 5. The next book is Interior Chinatown by Charles Wu. This book was listed as one of the top 5 Asian American books that were highly sought after, and I think I was on the waitlist for at least 15 weeks out, so it took me a really long time to actually get a hold of this book. I actually did not read the synopsis before putting it on hold, but the title itself really captured my attention, so I really went ahead and made sure I reserved that as quickly as possible. I have to say the style of the book really took me by surprise because it was not written in the way that most books are written. It's actually written in a screenplay format, so you're kind of following this along as if it's actually like a play or like a Broadway scene. This book is pretty metaphoric about an Asian man that feels like they are forever stuck in the background as like a background character amongst other groups that are a little bit more privileged or oppressed at the same time. So those 2 groups were getting more attention and he felt like he was the one that's stuck in the background. I think this book also hit really close to home for me because I am a first generation Asian American woman, and I think people in our group have felt unnoticed or felt like they were in the background. And I've definitely been in that position multiple times myself. Without getting too much into the details, I think the author did a fantastic job writing this book. I think they did a really great job depicting each characters with being extremely lighthearted and comical at the same time. I listened to this from the audiobook perspective, and the reader was really great. He was really comical and really lighthearted, and I really liked how he was depicting each character. So I definitely suggest to read this one, or rather listen to it from an audiobook perspective. This was definitely one of my favorite books I read, so I'm actually giving this a 5 out of 5. Okay, so the next book is Lolita by Vladimir Nabokov. So Lolita is a banned book, and I think I was on the waitlist for over 19 weeks out to get a hold of this book, and I finally got it. I always knew that there were a lot of mixed feelings about Lolita, but I think it's one of those books that you have to read at least once in your lifetime, and you don't ever have to read it again after that. If you don't know what Lolita is about, Lolita is about a 36-year-old man that is in love with a 12-year-old girl. So, this book is pretty complex in emotions, I would say, from the protagonist. He does play a fatherly figure with Lolita, but at the same time, he's in a relationship with her. From a character development perspective, I think Nabokov did a pretty brilliant job in developing his characters to have those natural male and female instincts. I think what Nabokov really wanted to achieve in his characters is no matter where you are in your life, that there will always be a part of you where one instinct is going to be more dominant over the other, and there are going to be repercussions with it, but you are also going to be thinking about what's the right or the wrong at the same time. I don't want to get too deep into this book because I really do believe it is a book that you should read at least once, but if you were to ask me if I were to reread it again, I will say no, and I personally give this book a 3.5 out of 5. The 4th book I'm going to mention is Killers of the Flower Moon by David Grann. Killers of the Flower Moon is about the wealthy Osage family who had the oil rights that were mysteriously being killed off by their white counterparts. I actually thought this book was going to be the exaggerated version of Killers of the Flower Moon with Leonardo DiCaprio and Lily Gladstone, but it's actually PG and very heavily focused on what really happened during that time. This was a little bit of a surprise read because I was expecting it to be a little bit more fantasized, but it was definitely a great read and a really great way to get a full picture of what really happened during the Osage oil crisis amongst the Osage tribes. It's PG, so if you're like me that can't handle insane violence anymore, I definitely recommend reading this one because it's a fantastic historical piece. I rate this book a 4 out of 5. Okay, so the last book I'm gonna mention is called Business Casual by B.K. Borison. So I actually have no idea how I came across this book. I must have somehow put an alert on my Libby to alert me when this book was available. So right when it was available, I was one of the first people to actually get a hold of this book at my local library. I had no idea what I was about to get myself into. Business Casual is an erotic/romantic book to some degree. I honestly thought this book was going to be a business book because it says business casual. I don't know. I didn't do any research on it whatsoever. I just put it in my Libby app but it was definitely steamy, and it's about two different people with very different professions, and I was actually intrigued enough to listen to all the other books that were written by B.K. Morrison. All of our books are actually interlaced with each other, which I personally liked because many of the characters are actually reoccurring, and I really enjoyed how a set of characters are secondary characters in one book but are actually the main characters in another book. I'm personally not a fan of romantic books, but I actually give this one a 4 out of 5. Okay everyone, that was a pretty long video, but I really hope you guys really took something away from this one this time. As I mentioned earlier, I am going to be releasing my new Notion template in the next coming weeks, so keep an eye out for that next video. I'm definitely looking forward for any of the tips and recommendations in my next upcoming trips, so feel free to comment those in the comment section. And I will see you guys again. Bye!